Today I'm departing my home strip to go to one of my favorite places. Like a beautiful day. Winds are pretty calm. Go get fuel. Oil temperature's good. Trim set. Oil pressure's good. Here we go.
So how short is too short to land when you're landing on a gravel bar in the middle of the river and you're planning on using water going in and planning on using water going out? And what are all the variables involved? Don't let this happen to you. It happens to a lot of people. I'm going to make a statement that I've made lots of times. The quickest way to wreck a good airplane is to use water.
Third notch of flaps.
I was heading up to my favorite place to do some gravel bar landings when I noticed this little knob here that they'd been using a yarder to log from. And I thought, wow, that is like the perfect little spot to land. So I drug it. Just there, I was dragging it. And I'm coming back around.
Second notch of flaps.
I really wasn't paying much attention to the wind.
Third notch of flaps.
I basically liked the approach in this direction. After landing, I realized that actually opposite direction was better. So I got out my drone, did a little bit of filming, and then took off again and landed it in what would be the preferred direction, actually, because you're landing uphill and just basically ending up on the top of the knob at your rollout.
It's not too often you get to land on the top of a knob on a logging road. There's just usually too much stuff. And the wind actually is kind of favoring this way now anyway. It was probably favoring this way a little bit before too. I just didn't think it looked as nice this way, but it actually looks better. Trim set. Here we go. Anyway, it's kind of a neat little spot. Other than that, it's a logging road, but you just don't really actually hardly ever find these logging roads that you can actually land. There's usually so much crap sitting around them. So, land it one more time. So I got 2 notches of flaps in, carb heat on. Three notches.
You can see right there, I put it into a little bit of a slip to get my altitude where I wanted it.
44 over the ground. 41. Got a little bit of an uphill right there that you can land on. That actually worked out a lot better than landing it the other way. Top of the world. Turn off my cameras and we'll keep going.
I got up here pretty late in the afternoon. It was probably close to, I don't know, 2:30, 3 o'clock when I made it to the knob here. And then by the time I got to the gravel bars, it was probably 3:30. So that's the part I really want to cover in this video. So I've landed this gravel bar before, different water levels, different times of the year. This gravel bar usually shows up. It's pretty short today. I would guesstimate it at about 100 feet long. And I taxi out into the water here, probably another 60, 70 feet. So that gives me about 170 feet for takeoff. Although the water kind of bogs you down when you take off in it. You try to take off in more than about 4, 5, 6 inches of water and it really slows you down. So this does help my takeoff roll, but I was full fuel almost. I had just gotten fuel before I got up here, so I probably still had 30 gallons of fuel. And I'm taking off downriver. This particular spot, I wouldn't take off upriver because it goes right into a corner. There's trees. So I'm taking off downriver and there's a big rock right off the end there. And so when I hit the end of the gravel bar, I really can't rotate because I'd slam my tail down into the gravel bar, into that big rock. So I basically put the tires on the water, which creates drag. And because the water's flowing the same direction that I'm going, it's a negative. So how do you prevent yourself from ending up being one of the guys that goes upside down in a river? Well, I have some rules that I follow, and I pretty much stick to them. I don't use water unnecessarily. That means I don't use it unless I plan on landing or taking off. I don't just go water skipping down a river. Now, to get more specific, I typically don't use water if it's windy. If I can cut my ground speed by landing into the wind, say from 40 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour, I would never use water because now I'm flying at 30 miles an hour and that is penetration speed of the water with my 35-inch bush wheels, and I'm going to end up upside down. And then there's landing using the flow of the river. So if you're landing on a river that flows at say 4 or 5 miles an hour and you're landing upriver and you're landing at 35, your ground speed's really 40. So you have a pretty good safety margin at that point. But let's say you're doing the opposite. Let's say you're landing downriver and you're landing at 35 downriver and the river's flowing 5. Now you're landing at basically your penetration speed, 30 miles an hour. You're going to go upside down if you're in deep water. The other thing to take into consideration is rivers don't flow at the same speed in every place. So let's say where the gravel bar comes together, in that riffle right off the end where you got basically the river passing on both sides of the gravel bar and it's meeting at the end downriver, you may have a solid 4 or 5 miles an hour of flow. But if it's coming around a corner, you may have a dead section of water up above that riffle. If you hit that dead section of water, let's say you were hydroplaning at what felt really solid, 35 miles an hour, and then you hit that dead section of water which has no flow, it's like an eddy, or basically it's not active, it's not helping you at this point. And now you've just lost 5 miles an hour of ground speed if it's barely flowing. So now you're at your penetration speed. Before you can hit the throttle, you're upside down in the middle of the river. Every place I land where I plan on using water, either for takeoff or landing or for both, I ask myself, what are the gotchas? What are the things I need to be thinking about when I do this? Do I have a lot of fuel? What's the wind doing? What's the river doing? What's the terrain? There's, many questions that you need to think about, and every situation's slightly different. But until you have a full grasp of using water, you're just asking for trouble. Some of the best pilots I know have either been upside down or have been really close playing around using water. The video that Lonnie and I made, Big Rocks Long Props Volume 1, at the very end, I believe there is just a short little segment where Lonnie is in his Cub and he's landing downriver on a gravel bar, and he penetrates right at the end, and water goes all over the airplane, of course, and I think it actually maybe shook him up slightly. Anyway, he hopped out of the airplane, parked and hopped out of the airplane, and he's like, I gotta see that on video. You know, he probably had never penetrated the water at that speed to where, you know, his airplane was totally engulfed in, you know, a plume of water as he came to a stop, and he wanted to see it on video. So when it happens really fast. You don't have much time to basically react. The deeper the water, the worse the outcome's going to be. So just keep thinking, you know, do I really want to wreck my airplane playing on the top of the surface of the water? Is it really worth it? You know, out in the middle of a lake like this could be pretty dangerous. You go upside down. On a, you know, shallow gravel bar, probably not as dangerous as long as you don't get, you know, trapped in the airplane somehow underwater. Not all airplanes hydroplane at the same speed. You know, tires play a part in it. Size of tires, weight of the airplane. There's just a lot of variables that if you don't understand, you know, even one of them, it could basically ruin your day. Then once you have the airplane upside down, now what? You're by yourself? Well, you're not going to pull that airplane very far by yourself. Even a light cub is impossible to move by yourself, upside down. How many friends do you have that can help you recover a cub upside down somewhere? I have a few, and I have numbers that I'm going to call if that happens. Those guys know what to do, and we could probably save most airplanes in a couple days at the very most, but you know, the further it gets from civilization, the tougher it is. And then the question is, do you fly it out of there? Do you put new struts on it, bandage up the wing, and take your chances flying it off that gravel bar? You know, a broken airplane patched up on a short gravel bar isn't going to give you any time to make a lot of decisions. And if you're in remote, not likely there's going to be a road nearby, so then you're going to have to pay for a helicopter. My guess is a helicopter is going to cost you upwards of $20,000 to $25,000 to get an airplane out of a remote place, even a short distance. This is one of those things like what your parent may have told you. Do as I say, not as I do. You know, most people have seen me hydroplane my airplane at some point in some video somewhere. And so I'm not the best example, but I'm telling you, you know, the best way to wreck a good airplane is to hydroplane it on water. I made this video several months ago when I was still posting videos pretty regularly. It was during the winter time, and I think the days were fairly short. I think it was getting dark about 5 o'clock, and I'm headed home. This was a video I had in process, and so I figured I'd finish it up and post it. It will be a while before I start posting videos again. I've got a lot of stuff going on in my life right now, and so for that reason, I am not making videos. A few of you have figured out that I wrecked this yellow Super Cub at the end of February. Fortunately, I was not hurt, and I will be rebuilding this yellow Super Cub over time. And so the four-place that I was building will take a back seat to rebuilding this yellow Cub. And I won't be posting any videos of the yellow Cub rebuild. It's one of those things where when I want to get something done fast, I don't want to be making videos of building something. Anyway, thanks for following along on my videos, and stay tuned. There will be something down the road. I can't tell you when.